the top complaints News Channel 5 investigators receive about Cleveland are road conditions, and you see it there, potholes. As we dug into the overall problem, our 6-month-long investigation found eye-opening reasons why streets are so bad.
5 on Your Side investigator Jonathan Walsh talks with a national expert about Cleveland's roads and exposes glaring problems with the city's street system.
When it comes to repairing streets, on the one hand, you have evaluating the roads. On the other, you have repaving and maintenance. Many viewers tell me the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and the whole fundamental strategy is a mess.
First thing I noticed was my wheel alignment.
Demetrius Smith told me he's had damage to his car after driving on his East Side street.
It's really a nice, fair roller coaster ride, you know, nothing really smooth sailing.
Same thing goes on Western Avenue on the west side of Cleveland.
It's like driving a car on a train track.
Leo Torres explained to me it's been like this since he moved there in 1999.
Every year it actually gets worse. Every year the bumps get bigger.
If these guys don't qualify, who is getting the new roads? Well, I'm going to show you in just a moment. But first, let's take you all the way back to 2007 when the streets were so bad the city of Cleveland actually spent $470,000 to understand the condition of every road. Completed in 2009, the massive evaluation produced this list that rated 16,000 Cleveland streets from 1 to 100. The city talks about those streets with A through F grades. One problem? That list is still being used today as a baseline. Is that an effective strategy?
Generally speaking, you need to measure your pavement conditions or your bridge conditions every few years.
Here I am, 9 years after the grading started, talking to the founder of Michigan State University's National Center for Pavement Preservation.
There's an awful lot of roads that are in poor condition now.
I showed Larry Galehouse Cleveland's DNF streets. Now, he travels the country helping states, counties, and cities with their roads. And even after all of the bad streets he's seen nationwide, this is what he said about the worst streets in Cleveland.
Yeah, looking at this, it's pretty serious.
It's serious for your taxpayer money and safety. But also, we went out to these streets and found there's no consistency to the street ratings. Just take Zimmer Avenue, for example. It's a brick road, and it has a 100 rating. People who live there say,
not 100, I wouldn't give it a grade of that.
We found the same misstep for Arden around West 116th, rated 100.
I would give that like maybe 50.
My producer and I dug through incredible amounts of data related to the 2009 study. How many streets are A-rated roads like those two streets? Only 10% in the whole city. But a little more than 5,100 roads fall into the DNF categories.
That is a high percentage.
It's almost 33%. So how did we get here? Galehouse told me the single toughest challenge across the country is the old school government strategy of build a road and then build it again later.
We cannot afford to continue to build and use the worst first philosophy.
Everything we do is based on worst first.
That is Cleveland's chief operating officer, Darnell Brown. The worst first theme was repeated several times during my interview with him. Worst streets get first priority.
As we continue to go through this program, it will be evident that the worst streets are getting done.
What is evident is that city leaders are not very good at their own flawed mission. How do I know? Well, I added it up. Of the segments of roads that were repaved between 2009, when that list came out in 2015, 518 roads had an A, B, or C rating. Compare that to the D's and F's, 487. They did their mission so poorly that they kind of got it right in a backwards sort of way. They did the better roads more so than the worst roads.
The goal at the end of the day is to do all of the worst.
According to the city's plans, East 149th Street was one of the worst. Now it's pretty smooth, but who lives on that street? In 2009, when this study was finally released, this street had a D rating. There were 1,000 other streets with an F rating. So why did this street get done, your street? Meet Councilman Zach Reed.
The only thing I can tell you, at that particular time, we weren't doing rating systems. Other streets were done well before my street was done. But my street just happened to be part of 100. I can't say to the people of 149, because I live on the street, we're going to skip over your street. We haven't skipped over any street. We didn't do it in a willy-nilly, let's do Zach Reed Street. We did it in a systematic way.
Okay, so by now you may be wondering, what is that system? How does a street get paved in Cleveland? We got this email from the mayor's office. The strategy is, quote, objectively subjective. Think about it. Objectively subjective.
Have you heard that term before?
I have not.
Okay.
I've not heard
Because
that
it
term.
seemed, that sounds confusing to me.
Brown wasn't aware of that, objectively subjective, so we pieced it together the best that we could. It's a system where the 2009 study produces a list of the streets that should be done. Then the city evaluates roads and comes up with its own list of worst streets in each ward. Then each council member comes up with his or her own list. Remember Leo? Here's his council rep, Donna Brady.
I turn in my own lists, which are totally different from the lists that I'm given because the lists I'm given don't make any sense.
So, what actually gets done? Well, here's Councilman Jeff Johnson driving on his street. It was repaved in 2011, despite segments of it having B and C ratings. Councilman TJ Dow's listed street was also repaved in 2011, a street that had a D rating, but remember, there are more than 1,000 other F streets on the 2009 list. Leo can only wish his street was repaved.
I mean, I want to stay here, but I mean, I like to live in the city where you can actually drive in the streets.
Meanwhile, Councilman Kevin Conwell's street was redone. Here he is driving on it. Our research shows between 2009 and 2015, only 1 in 16 streets has been resurfaced.
With so many streets bad, though, Councilman, you're one of the lucky ones.
Oh, I'm blessed. I advocated.
No,
This year,
your street was repaved back in 2011.
right, my street was repaved. The residents got out there and they pushed for my street. I just live in a ward. So that's okay if my street was repaved.
It's not okay with Demetrius. You see, he told me he lives on East 112th, which is connected to Ashbury Avenue, which is Councilman Conwell's recently paved street.
When their street got done, our street should have got done.
Councilman Conwell pointed to the millions of dollars in street repairs he's addressed for his ward.
We're doing worse. We're ranking worse.
At the time when his street was redone, it had 8 segments that were given C grades. What happened to worst first?
So when do you evaluate your street and say, look, this has a bunch of C ratings. We might not need to do Ashbury. We need to do another street.
Well, you know what? We took a look at that, and then I went to, I walked the street like we're walking the streets right now, and you do an analysis.
The most recent analysis is the city upping its local resurfacing budget from $4.4 million to now $10 million. Councilman Conwell noted a project for this year.
And we get ready to spend $4.2 million to do East 105th Street.
So, investing more money in a system that appears to be flawed. Take, for example, the East 75th segment between Sherman Avenue and Quincy, part of the same project Councilman Conwell was just talking about. It's rated a C. No homes around it, just boarded up buildings. Sherman is right next to it. It has a D rating, but East 75th gets the attention.
How does something like that get on a repaving list?
Again, it's based on pavement condition rating.
And again, it's rated a C. Brown did tell me the city's working hard on its preservation program for crack sealing and adding rejuvenators on newer streets. It's a process Gale House explained needs to be done much more often.
Because if they don't address their better roads today, they're going to have even more than 33% in the D and F category.
We found one of those better roads that the city has taken care of, the Mayor's Street. That's right. Even with thousands of remaining D and F streets, Frank Jackson got a newly paved road in 2012. And get this, at the end of his street, more new roads. I asked for an interview, never got one. I was told the Mayor's Street was done according to the city's systematic approach.
The old business model is really outdated.
Would you like them to pay attention to your street?
Oh, yes, most definitely. Oh, yes, I would. Yes, help, please.
And get this, the city of Cleveland just spent $600,000 on a new study to grade our roads.
That master list should be out in September.
But will it be another cycle of Cleveland viewers asking me, what did we get for our money? And is it, here we go again? I'm investigator Jonathan Walsh, News Channel 5.
We have that 2009 complete list of 16,000 graded streets on our Newsnet 5 app.
I know you want to see it. It's an interactive display that will let you check out what grade your street has. Then we want you to tell us what you think, and we'll follow up.